Okay, are we back? I don't know what's going on. I restarted OBS. How long was the stream out for? It couldn't have been that long, right? Wait, the stream's been, like, down forever? I don't understand. Okay, well, you know, shit happens, right? Yeah, I don't know. That's really fucked up. But we're back, right? Right? We back? Man, this is so annoying when this shit happens. Okay. I should have known something like this would happen because OBS was freaking out and getting like lag behind and shit like that, but it is what it is. We seem to be back. So that's all that matters. Alright, here we go. Let's keep reading. I don't know what happened. Apparently we missed like 5 minutes, so I don't know. But we haven't even read a page yet, so it's not like it really matters. Let's hope that doesn't happen again. Because it gave me like an error message saying it couldn't find the stream key. And I was like, what the fuck? But like Kick and like Rumble and Twitter were fine. It was only like Twitch that fucked up. His shaven head lifted high, and there was a light in his eye, as if he felt a father's pride. His voice grew stronger, filled with the force of his feeling. The whole room could hear without straining. We, of Shinar, call ourselves bordermen, but fewer than 50 years ago, Shinar was not truly of the borderlands. North of us, and of Arafel, was Malkir. The lances of Shinar rode north, but it was Malkir that held back the blight. Malkir, peace favor her memory, and the light illumine her name. Lan was from Malkir, the wisdom said softly, looking up. She seemed troubled. It was not a question, but Agelmar nodded. Yes, Lady Nynaeve. He is the son of Alkir Mandragoraman, last crowned king of the Malkiri. How did he become as he is? The beginning, perhaps, was Lane on a dare. Lane Mandragoran, king's brother, led his lances through the blight of the blessed lands, perhaps to Shale Gol itself. Lane's wife, Brian, made that dare for the envy that burned her heart, that Alkir had been raised to the throne instead of Lane. King and Lane were so close as brothers could be, as close as twins, even after the royal Al was added to Akir's name. But jealousy racked Brian. Lane was acclaimed for his deeds, and rightfully so, but not even he could outshine Alkir. He was man and king, such as comes once in 100 years. If that, peace favor him, and Liana. Lane died in the blasted lands with most of those who followed him. Men Malkir could ill afford to lose, and Brian blamed the king, saying Shalgol itself would have fallen if Alkir had led the rest of the Malkiri north with her husband. For revenge, she plotted with Cohen Gemelin, called Cohen Faintheart, to seize the throne for her son Isom. Now Fairheart was a hero almost as well loved as Alkir himself, and one of the great lords. But when the great lords had cast the rods for king, only two separated him from Akir, and he never forgot that two men laying a different color on the crowned stone would have set him on the throne instead. Between them, Cohen and Brian moved soldiers back from the Blight to seize the Seven Towers, stripped the border forts to bare garrisons. The Cohen's jealousy ran deeper. Disgust tinged Egelmar's voice. Fairheart, the hero whose exploits in the Blight were sung throughout the borderlands, was a dark friend. With the border forts weakened, Trollocs poured into Malkir like a flood. King Alkir and Lane together might have rallied the land. They had done so before, but Lane's doom in the blasted lands had shaken the people, and the Trolloc invasion broke men's spirit and their will to resist. Too many men. Overwhelming numbers pushed the Malkiri back into the heartland. Brian fled with her infant son Isom, and was run down by Trollocs as she rode south with him. No one knows their fate for a certainty, but it can be guessed that I can find pity only for the boy. When Cohen Faintheart's treachery was revealed, and he was taken by young Jane Charon, already called Jane Farstrider. When Fainheart was brought to the Seven Towers in chains, the great lord called for his head on a pike, but because he had been second only to Alkir and Lane in the hearts of the people, the king faced him in single combat and slew him. Alkir wept when he killed Cohen. Some say he wept for a friend who had given himself to the shadow, and some say for Malkir. The Lord of Faldara shook his head sadly. The first peal of the doom of the Seven Towers has been struck. There was no time to gather aid from Shinar or Arafel, and no hope that Malkir could stand alone with 5,000 of her lances dead in the blasted lands, her border forts overrun. Alkir and his queen Eliana had Lan brought to them in his cradle. Into his infant hands they placed the sword of Malkiri kings, the sword he wears today, a weapon made by the Aes Sedai during the War of Power, the War of the Shadow, and brought down the Age of Legends. They anointed his head with oil, named him Dai Shan, a diademed battle lord, and consecrated him as the next king of Malkieri. And in his name they swore an ancient oath of Malkiri kings and queens. Egelmar's face hardened, and he spoke the words as if he too had sworn that oath, or one much similar, to stand against the shadow so long as iron is hard and stone abides, to defend the Malkiri though while one drop of blood remains, to avenge what cannot be defended. The words rang in the chamber. Eliana placed a locket around her son's neck for remembrance, and the infant, wrapped in swaddling clothes by the queen's own hand, was given over to 20 chosen from the king's bodyguard, the best swordsmen, the most deadly fighters, their command to carry the child to Falmoran. Then did Alakir and Eliana lead the Malkiri out to face the shadow one last time. There they died, at Harret's Crossing, and the Malkiri died, and the Seven Towers were broken. Shinar and Arafel and Kandor met the Halfmen and the Trollocs at the Stair of Jianan, and threw them back but not as far as they had been. Most of Malkier remained in Trolloc hands, and year by year, mile by mile, the blight has swallowed it. Egelmar drew a heavy-hearted breath. When he went on, there was a sad pride in his eyes and voice. Only 5 of the bodyguards reached Fal Moran alive, every man wounded, but they had the child unharmed. From the cradle, they taught him all they knew. He learned weapons, as other children learn toys, and the blight as other children their mother's gardens. The oath sworn over his cradle is graven in his mind. There is nothing left to defend, but he can avenge. He denies his titles, yet in the borderlands he is called the Uncrowned, and if ever he raised the golden crane of Malkier, an army would come to follow. But he will not lead men to their deaths. In the blight, he counts a death as a suitor courts a maiden, but he will not lead others to it. You must enter the blight, and with only a few, there is no man better to take you there, nor to bring you safely out again. He is the best of the warders, and that means the best of the best. You might as well leave these boys here to gain little seasoning and put your entire trust in Lan. The blight is no place for untried boys. Matt opened his mouth and shut it again at a look from Rand. I wish he'd learned to keep his shut. Naveen had listened just as wide-eyed as Egwin, but now she was staring into her cup again, her face pale. Egwin had put a hand on her arm and gave her a sympathetic look. Moiraine appeared in the doorway, Lan at her heels. Nynaeve turned her back on them. What did he say? Rand demanded. At Rose and Perrin too. Country oaf. Egelmar muttered, then raised his voice to a normal tone. Did you learn anything, Aes Sedai, or is he simply a madman? He is mad, Moiraine said, or close to it, but there is nothing simple about Padden Fane. One of the black and gold liveried servants bowed his way in with a blue wash basin and a pitcher, bar of yellow soap, and a small towel on a silver tray. He looked anxiously at Egelmar. Moiraine directed him to put them on the table. Your pardon for commanding your servants, Lord Egelmar, she said. I took the liberty of asking for this. Egelmar nodded to the servant, who put the tray on the table and left hurriedly. My servants are yours to command, Aes Sedai. The water Moiraine poured into the basin steamed as if only just off the boil. She pushed up her sleeves and began vigorously washing her hands without regard for the heat of the water. I said he was worse than vile, but I did not come close. I do not believe I have ever met someone so abject and debased, yet at the same time so foul. I feel soil from touching him, and I do not mean the filth of his skin, soiled in here. She touched her breast. The degradation of his soul almost makes me doubt he has one. There is something worse in him than a dark friend. He looked so pitiful, Egwin murmured. I remember him arriving in Edmund's Field each spring, always laughing and full of news from everyone outside. Surely there's some hope for him. No man can stand in the shadows so long as he cannot find the light again, she quoted. The Aes Sedai toweled her hands briskly. I have always believed it so, she said. Perhaps Padden Fane can be redeemed, but he has been a dark friend more than 40 years. And what he has done for that in blood and pain and death would freeze your heart to hear. Among the least of these, though not small of you, I suspect, he brought the Trollocs to Edmund's Field. Yes, Rand said softly. He heard Egwin gasp. I should have guessed. Burn me, I should have, as soon as I recognized him. Did he bring any here? Matt asked. He looked at the stone walls around them and shivered. Rand thought he was remembering the Myrdril more than Trollocs. Walls had not stopped the fade at Berlin, or at Whitegate. If he did, Egelmar laughed, they'll break their teeth on the walls of Faldara. Many others have before. He was speaking to everyone, but obviously addressing his words to Egwin and Nynaeve from the glances he gave them. And do not worry yourselves about half-men either. Matt's face reddened. Every street and alley in Faldara is lit by night, and no man may hide his face inside the walls. Why would Master Fane do that? Egwin asked. 3 years ago, With a heavy sigh, Moiraine sat down, folding up as if what she had done with Fane had drained her. 3 years ago, this summer, as far back as that, the light surely favors us, else the father of lies would have triumphed while I still sat planning in Tar Valon. 3 years. Fane has been hunting for you for the Dark One. That's crazy, Rand said. He's come into the Two Rivers every spring as regular as a clock. 3 years. We've been right there in front of him, and he never looked any of us twice. Looked at us any of us twice before last year. The Aes Sedai pointed a finger at him, fixing him. Fane told me everything, Rand, or almost everything. I believe he managed to hold back something important, despite all I could. But he said enough. 3 years ago, the half-man came for him in a town of Murendi. Fane was terrified, of course, but it is considered a very great honor among Dark Friends to be so summoned. Fane believed he had been chosen for great things, and he had. Though not in the manner he believed, he was brought north to the Blight, to the Blasted Lands, to Shalgol, where he met a man with eyes of fire who named himself Baalzamon. Matt shifted uneasily, and Rand swallowed hard. It had to have been that way, of course, but that did not make it any easier to accept. Only Perrin looked at the Aes Sedai as if nothing could surprise him any longer. The light protect us, Egelmar said fervently. Fane did not like what was done to him in Shalgol. Moiraine continued calmly. We talked, he screamed often of fire and burning. It almost killed him, bringing it all out from where he had hidden it. Even with my healing, he is a shattered ruin. It will take much and to make him whole again. I will make the effort, though, if for no other reason than to learn what more he still hides. He had been chosen because of where he did his peddling. No, she said quickly. Then they stirred. Not the Two Rivers only, not then. The Father of Lies knew roughly where to find what he sought, but not much better than we in Tar Valon. Fane said he has been made Dark One's hound, and in a way he is right. Father of Lies set Fane to hunt, first changing him so he could carry out that hunt. It is the things done to bring about those changes that Fane fears to remember. He hates his master for them as much as he fears him. So Fane was sent sniffing and hunting through all the villages around Berlin, and all the way to the mountains of Mist, and down to the Terran, and across the Two Rivers. 3 springs ago, Perrin said slowly. I remember that spring. Fane came later than usual, but what was strange was that he lingered on. A whole week he remained, idle and gnashing his teeth about laying out money for a room at a Winged Spring Inn. Fane likes his money. I remember now, Matt said. Everybody was wondering, was he sick? Or had he fallen for a local woman? Not any of them would marry a peddler, of course, as well marry from the traveling people. Egwin raised an eyebrow at him, and he shut his mouth. After that, Fane was taken to Shalgol again, and his mind was distilled. Rand's stomach turned over at the tone in the Aes Sedai's voice. It told more of what she meant than the grimace that flashed across her face. What he had sensed was concentrated and fed back. When he entered the Two Rivers the next year, he was able to choose his targets out more clearly. Indeed, more clearly even than the Dark One had expected. Fane knew for a certainty that the one he sought was one of 3 in Edmund's Field. Perrin grunted, and Matt began cursing in a soft monotone that even Nynaeve's glare did not stop. Egelmar looked at them curiously. Rand felt only the faintest chill, and wondered at it. 3 years the Dark One had been hunting him, hunting them. He was sure it should have made his teeth chatter. Moiraine did not allow Matt to interrupt her. She raised her voice enough to be heard over him. When Fane returned to Legard, Baalzamon came to him in a dream. Fane abased himself and performed rites that would strike you deaf to hear the half of them, binding himself even more tightly to the Dark One. What is done in dreams can be more dangerous than what is done awake. Rand stirred at the sharp, warning look, but she did not pause. He was promised great rewards, power over kingdoms after Baalzamon's victory, and told that when he returned to Edmund's Field, he was to mark the 3 he had found. The half-man would be there, waiting for him with Trollocs. We know now how the Trollocs came to the 2 rivers. There must have been an Ogier Grove and a Waygate at Manathirin. The most beautiful of all, Will said, except for Tar Valon. He had been listening as intently as everyone else. Manathirin is remembered fondly by the Ogier. Egelmar formed the name silently, his eyebrows raised in wonder. Manathirin. Lord Egelmar, Moiraine said, I will tell you how to find the Waygate of Mafal de Daranel. It must be walled up, and a guard set, and none allowed near. The half-men have not learned all of the ways yet, but that Waygate is to the south and only hours from Faldara. The Lord of Faldara gave himself a shake, as if he were coming out of a trance. South? East? We don't need that. The light shine on us. It shall be done. Did Fane follow us through the ways? Perrin asked. He must have done. Moiraine nodded. Fane would follow you 3 into the grave because he must. When the Myrddraal failed at Edmund's Field, it brought Fane with Trollocs on our trail. The Fade would not let Fane ride with him, although he thought he should have had the best horse in the 2 rivers and ride at the head of the band. The Myrddraal forced him to run with the Trollocs, and the Trollocs to carry him when his feet gave out. They talked so that he could understand, arguing about the best way to cook him when his usefulness was done. Fane claims he turned against the Dark One before they reached the Terran, but sometimes his greed for his promised rewards seep into the open. When we had escaped across the Terran, and Myrddraal took the Trollocs back to the closest Waygate in the Mountains of Mist, and sent Fane across alone. He thought he was free then. Before he reached Berlin, another Fade found him, and that one was not so kind. Made him sleep, doubled up on himself in a Trolloc kettle at night, to remind him of the price of failure. And one used him as far as Shadar Logoth. By then, Fane was willing to give the Myrddraal his mother if it would free him, but the Dark One never willingly loses the hold on its he has gained. What I did there, sending an illusion of our tracks and smell off toward the mountains, fooled the Myrddraal, but not Fane. The half-men did not believe him afterward. They dragged him behind them on a leash. Only when we seemed to keep always just ahead, no matter how hard they pressed, did some begin to credit him. Those were the 4 who returned to Shadar Logoth. Fane claims it was Baalzamon himself who drove the Myrddraal. Egelmar shook his head contemptuously. Fuck. Dark One. Pah. The man's lying or mad. If Heart's Bane were loose, we'd all of us be dead by now, or worse. Bane spoke the truth as he saw it, Moiraine said. He could not lie to me, though he hid much. His words. Baalzamon appeared like a flickering candle flame, vanishing and reappearing, never in the same place twice. His eyes seared the Myrddraal, and the fires of his mouth scourged us. Something, Lan said, drove 4 Fades to where they feared to go, a place they fear almost as much as they fear the wrath of the Dark One. Egelmar grunted, as if he had been kicked. He looked sick. It was evil against evil in the ruins of Shadar Logoth, Moiraine continued. Foul fighting, vile. When Fane spoke of it, his teeth chattered, and he whispered many Trollocs were slain, consumed by Mashadar, and other things, including the Trolloc that held Fane's leash. He fled the city, as if it were a pit of doom at Shale Gall. Fane believed he was free at last. He intended to run until Baalzamon could never find him again, to the ends of the earth if necessary. Imagine his horror when he discovered that the compulsion to hunt did not lessen. Instead, it grew stronger and sharper with every day that passed. He could not eat, except what he could scavenge while he hunted you, beetles and lizards, snatched while he ran, half-rotten refuse dog from midden heaps in the dark of night. Nor could he stop until exhaustion collapsed him like an empty sack. And as soon as he had strength to stand again, he was driven on. By the time he reached Camelin, he could feel his quarry, even when it was a mile away. Here, in the cells below, he would sometimes look up without realizing what he was doing. He was looking in the direction of this room. Rand had a sudden itch between his shoulder blades. It was as if he could feel Fane's eyes on him then. Through the intervening stone, the Aes Sedai noticed his uneasy shrug, and she went on implacably. If Fane was half mad by the time he reached Camelin, sank even further when he realized that only two of those he sought were there. He was compelled to find all of you, but he could do no other than follow the two who were there. Either he spoke of screaming when the waygate opened in Camelin. The knowledge of how to do it was in his mind. He does not know how it came there. His hands moved of their own accord, burning with the fires of Baalzamon. When he tried to stop them, the owner of the shop, who came to investigate the noise, Fane murdered, not because he had to, but out of envy that the man could walk freely out of the cellar while his feet carried him inexorably toward the ways. Then, Fane was the one you sensed following us, Egwin said. Lan nodded. How did he escape the black wind? Her voice shook. She stopped to swallow. It was right behind us at the waygate. He escaped. And he did not, Moiraine said. The black wind caught him, and he claimed to understand the voices, some greeting him as like to them. Others feared him. No sooner did the wind envelop Fane than it fled. The light preserve us, Loyal's whisper rumbled like a giant bumblebee. Pray that it does, Moiraine said. There is much yet hidden about Padan Fane, which I must learn. The evil goes deeper in him, and stronger than in any man I have ever seen. It may be that the Dark One, in doing what he is to do to Fane, impressed some part of himself on the man, perhaps even unknowing some part of his intent. When I mentioned the Eye of the World, Fane clapped his jaws shut, but I felt something knowing behind the silence. If only I had time now, but we cannot wait. If this man knows something, Egilmar says, I can get it out of him. His face held no mercy for dark friends. His voice promised no pity for Fane. If you can learn even a part of what you will face in the Blight, it's worth an extra day. Battles have been lost for not knowing what the enemy intends. Moiraine sighed and shook her head ruefully. My lord, if we did not need at least one good night's sleep before facing the Blight, I would ride within the hour, though it meant the risk of meeting a Trolloc raid in the dark. Consider what I did learn from Fane. 3 years ago, the Dark One had to have Fane brought to Shal Gol to teach him. Despite the fact that Fane is a Dark Friend, dedicated to his marrow, 1 year ago, the Dark One could command Fane, the Dark Friend, through his dreams. This year, Baalzamon walks in the dreams of those who live in the light, and occasionally appears with difficulty at Shadar Logoth. Not in his own body, of course, but even a projection of the Dark One's mind, even a projection that filters and cannot hold, is more deathly dangerous than the two worlds than the world, to the world, than all the Trolloc hordes combined. Seals on Shell Goal are weakening desperately, Lord Egelmar. There is no time. Egelmar bowed his head in acquiescence. But when he raised it again, there was still a stubborn set to his mouth. Aes Sedai, I can accept that when I lead the lances to Tarwin's Gap, we will be no more than a diversion or a skirmish on the outskirts of the real battle. Duty takes men where it will, as surely as does the pattern, and neither promises that what we do will have greatness, but our skirmish will be useless, even should I win. If you lose the battle, if you say your party must be small, I say well and good, but I beg you to make every effort to see that you can win. Leave these young men here, Aes Sedai. I swear to you that I can find 3 experienced men with no thought of glory in their heads to replace them. Good swordsmen who are almost as handy in the Blight as Lan. Let me ride to the Gap, knowing that I have done what I can to help you be victorious. I must take them, and no others, Lord Egelmar, Moiraine said gently. They are the ones who will fight the battle at the eye of the world. Very true. Fucking ads. We tried. We're trying to get through it. But no, these ads just keep coming at us over and over again. It's just not fair. We can't fight them. There's nothing left for us out there. We can't fight those ads. They just keep coming in waves and waves. There's like infinite of them. I don't know. We're going to run out of ammo. We're going to break down. It's not going to be good. I'm telling you right now, this ain't what we do, right? It'll be a no-a-go. No ads up in here. Please don't bring on the ads. Whoever let them in is getting fucking banned. You can't just let these people in like this. They gonna ruin everything. They gonna ruin everything. They gonna ruin everything. I can't take it. Just the thought of these intrusive ads. Oh. Are we back? Alright, here we go. Egelmar's jaw dropped, and he stared at Rand and Mat and Perrin. Suddenly the Lord of Faldara took a step back, his hand groping unconsciously for the sword he never wore inside the fortress. They aren't. You are not Red or Shaw, Moiraine Sedai, but surely not even you would. Sudden sweat glistened in his shaved head. They are Ta-Varen, Moiraine said smoothly. The pattern weaves itself around them. Already the Dark One has tried to kill each of them more than once. 3 Ta-Varen in one place are enough to change the life around them as we know it. As surely as a whirlpool changes the path of a straw. When the place is the eye of the world, the pattern might weave even the Father of Lies into itself and make him harmless again. Egelmar stopped trying to find his sword, but he still looked at Rand and the others doubtfully. Moiraine Sedai, if you say they are, then they are, but I cannot see it. Farm boys, are you certain, Aes Sedai? The old blood, Moiraine said, split out like a river breaking into 1,000 times, 1,000 streams. But sometimes streams join together to make a river again. The old blood of Manetheren is strong and pure in almost all 3 young men. All these young men. Can you doubt the strength of Manetheren's blood, Lord Egelmar? Rand glanced sideways at the Aes Sedai. Almost all. He risked a look, and Nynaeve She had turned back to watch as well as listen, though she still avoided looking at Lan. He caught the wisdom's eye. She shook her head. She had not told the Aes Sedai that he was not 2 rivers born. What does Moiraine know? Manetheren, Egilmar said slowly, nodding. I would not doubt that blood. Then, more quickly, we'll bring strange times. Farm boys carry the honor of Manetheren into the Blight. Yet if any blood can strike a fell blow to the Dark One, it would be the blood of Manetheren. It shall be done as you wish, Aes Sedai. Then let us go to our rooms, Moiraine said. We must leave with the sun, for time grows short. The young men must sleep close to me. Time is too short before the battle to allow the Dark One another strike at them. Too short. Rand felt her eyes on him, studying him and his friends, weighing their strength, and he shivered. Too short. End of chapter 47. Ooh, we're getting there. We're getting there. The story is unraveling. I grab a drink, and then we've got PBS Space-Time video to watch, and a Veritasium video to watch. So, we got some content! All right.
We'd like to thank Henson Shaving.
Henson Shaving, hell yeah. Henson Shaving's epic.
That basically all stars have planetary systems. But we also learned that our own solar system is actually quite weird compared to most. In fact, we've never seen another system like it. So either we are extremely rare, or we're about to discover that there are countless solar system-like systems in the next big data drop from Gaia. Could go either way, but the answer has
True, Callie.
implications for the rarity of life in the universe. We've got a couple of quick announcements before we start. First, our eternal battle against the algorithm continues. The best way to encourage YouTube to share our videos is to like and comment. Doing both really makes a difference. And if you're new here, subscribe, hit the bell, and introduce yourself in the comments. We're friendly. Now for the fun part. It's Black Friday week at the Spacetime merch store. From now through Monday, you can get 20 to 50% off most merch items from all of 2025, including limited restocks and 3 new releases. First up, we've the LHC Higgs Discovery desktop and gaming mat. This 32-inch by 16-inch mat with anti-slip design
That's
is
badass.
inspired by the discovery of the Higgs at the Large Hadron Collider. Plus we have our final shirt and hoodie of the year, Don't Panic, It's Only Rocket Science. It's one of our rare full-color designs inspired by a little restaurant at the end of the universe. There's a link in the description. Now onto the episode. There are lots of reasons to search for planets around other stars, exoplanets. A big one is to find other places in the universe that might harbour life. We only know of one such planet, and that's Earth. And so we get particularly excited when we find
Fuck yeah, Callie. That's sick as fuck.
Earth mass
I
planets
love your aesthetic,
at the right
Callie.
distance from their star to sustain liquid water. Also critical for life as we know it. We've found lots of those habitable worlds, but we also don't know what factors are really critical to the initial development of life. Maybe star type. We get even more excited if that Earth mass planet is at the right distance from a Sun-type star. We found a few of those too, and we can infer that there are lots more. But is that it? There may be other astronomical factors. For example, it's been speculated that Jupiter was critical for the development of life on Earth because it protected us from excessive bombardment by comets and the like. So, how many Sun-like stars have we actually discovered that are confirmed to have both habitable Earth-like and also more distant Jupiter-like planets?
Guys, I think our solar system is constructed.
There's some evidence that such systems are actually truly rare. But it's also true that our current methods are just not good at finding those sorts of systems. Fortunately, new work based on the Gaia satellite is about to fix that, and hopefully it'll tell us how common or how exceedingly rare a solar system like ours really is. But before we get to how we might figure out the true uniqueness of our solar system, let's do a whirlwind tour through the history of exoplanet discovery. That'll give us a good understanding of the methods we're going to need to search for our solar system's twin. Planets are not easy to see. They are small and dim compared to their parent stars. We've managed to snap pics of a few with sophisticated starlight blocking and image analysis technology, but that's relatively recent and very difficult. No good for large-scale senses of planetary systems. For that, we need to use indirect methods that rely on the near-invisible planet's influence on its home star. In 1992, radio astronomers announced the discovery of the first 2 exoplanets. They orbit a millisecond
And then there's cool
pulsar,
worlds that their
an
main thing is trying to find
stellar
exomoons.
carcass that rotates 100
Because
times a
exomoons
second.
are like another
The
thing. You need to
crazy
find a
magnetic
planet that has a
fields
moon
of
around
this
it.
neutron star channel beams of high-energy particles whose radiation sweeps past the Earth with a regularity exceeding the best atomic clocks. In this one pulsar, a modulation in the timing of the pulse revealed the gravitational tug of 2 planets, with a third following soon after. Well, that's cool, but it's definitely not a solar system-like system in any respect. The next confirmed exoplanets all came from the radial velocity or Doppler method. Planets don't really orbit stars. Stars and planets orbit their mutual center of mass, their barycenter, which is always close to and often actually inside the star because the star's mass is so much larger than the planet. But that means stars do wobble in response to their planets. That wobble.
So if you see a
can be
wobbling
seen as a
star,
tiny
you can tell
change
if
in
there's
the
a planet
star's
around it.
velocity. in turn seen through the Doppler shift. That's the tiny stretching or squishing of light's wavelength, depending on whether its source is moving
away or
from
towards.
us or towards us.
Yep.
Now, a few planets were found this way through the 90s, all of them giant and with small orbits, because those are what the Doppler method
effect
is most sensitive to. The exoplanet gold rush really only started in the new millennium, with tens of new planets each year. Most of these were via the Doppler method, thanks to new high-resolution spectrometers like Keck High-Res in Hawaii and HARPS at the Lucia Observatory in Chile. Smaller and less hot planets were found, but still nothing like the Earth. Most of these were gas giants orbiting close to their star, and there was nothing like the Earth. I remember a time in the 90s when most planetary systems we knew of consisted of inner solar systems filled with gas giants. We had no idea if other Earth-like planets even existed. But the 2009 launch of the Kepler Space Telescope changed everything. The spacecraft had one job: to stare at a tiny patch, just 1/400th of the sky, and make precision
They were like,
measurements
there's
of
nothing
the
out there,
brightnesses
and then
of
it's
the
like, oh my god, look at all the
150,000
shit that's out
stars
there.
in its view. Tiny repeating changes in those brightnesses revealed miniature eclipses, occultations, as exoplanets passed in front of their home stars. This only worked for planetary systems with convenient alignments, but there were enough of those. By the mid-2010s, we were averaging hundreds of new exoplanets each year. And this method was finally sensitive to Earth analogues. In principle, anyway. We have found several Earth-ish sized planets in their stars' habitable zones. Most of these are around red dwarf stars, but also around a handful of stars that are more like the Sun. Now, extrapolating from Kepler's discoveries and taking into account